So good luck. It's so simple, and yet in today's world, as we all know, it is so not simple. You didn't occupy anything.
You're not shy on social media. I know you reserve it. It's occasional. It's not often, but you'll weigh in, and you'll weigh in with fairly right-wing politics. You're strong and lean to the right politically on Israel. Has that ever gotten in the way of this career? Are there tech companies who say, look, Hillel, we love you and what you could bring us, but we've seen on social media your footprint, and you sometimes take a right-wing position on Israel. That doesn't work in the liberal, progressive technology world we live in, and therefore we can't work with you anymore. Do you hesitate to write that post or stand up in that way because maybe it means you're done being published in Inc. or Entrepreneur or working with Microsoft or Apple?
Right. So the answer is no. That's never happened that someone would say, I'm not going to work with you. Of course, my colleagues are all very left, very liberal. And so they don't agree with the things that I say. Rarely do they. But I think it's a place of respect mostly. There are some, there's an investor that I love, again, very close friend who literally said to me in a meeting, we should not be in Israel. We should be in Uganda. Like, how do you even respond to that? So there are some super, super extreme left, and we just don't go there. But I have not come ever to a point that if someone said to me, I will not work with you because of your political opinions. That's never happened. Thank God.
What about Israel in general? The BDS movement continues to try, and thank God we continue to watch them suffer losses, whether it was the arrival of 50 Cent to Israel or whether it was Ben & Jerry's parent company, Unilever, saying that we're no longer boycotting the settlements. BDS has fail after fail, and please God, they should fail to oblivion and to disappear. But has that infiltrated the tech world? Are there tech companies that say, as much as Israel has to offer, as much as we could gain by partnering, we're just in this politically correct or progressive world, we can't work with Israel. Do you see BDS making inroads in technology, or is technology, in fact, the answer to BDS? I remember an APAC conference years ago, Bibi was speaking, and he got up and he said, keep fighting BDS. You can't dismiss them, but don't worry, they'll never win. And the answer is, we have too much to offer the world that the world would never boycott because they'll only hurt themselves without the medicine, the technology, the breakthrough. So was Bibi right, or is there any boycott in the tech world?
So you don't have to look too far. The funniest, I literally laugh out loud when I see this. When I see BDS websites powered by Wix, an Israeli company. And this is a real thing that I've seen not once and not twice. So Bibi was right. You cannot, you literally cannot boycott Israel. Forget Waze. I mean, are you using iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Built here. When you unlock your iPhone, it's Israeli technology. PrimeSense, Apple acquired them, right? When you use Facebook, half of it's built here. Oculus, built here. Google, when you type in Google and you make a mistake and it says, did you mean this? That's built here. Microsoft, everything is built here. So good luck. You literally cannot use a single electronic device without some sort of Israeli component in it. So it's impossible. Having said that, the tech world is extremely liberal, and, one of the biggest investors in Silicon Valley, one of the most recognized, most well-respected, really big name in Silicon Valley. I'm going to leave his name out right now. He has blocked everyone Jewish on Twitter. So he disguises it and says, oh, it's anti-Zionism. But what does Michael Eisenberg have to do with anti-Zionism? He's just Jewish. Right. He's an investor just like you. What are you blocking him for, right? So there's a lot of anti-Semitism. And I have to tell you that on Yom HaZikaron every year, Memorial Day in Israel, I get a really sick amount of vile, disgusting hatred, pictures of Ari and whatever. So, I learned to block it, but I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't, infiltrate and penetrate my heart. It does. It's a problem. I should learn how to have thicker skin, but there's a lot of anti-Semitism. I have to tell you that the former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, personally wrote me and said, personally, I will deal. I see what you're going through on Twitter. I see all the abuse and I will handle it. And he didn't do a thing, but it's a lot of abuse. I'm one of the most, vocal Jews, observant religious Jews that's proud of their Judaism. And, at the end of the day, people respect it when you own something. You're not embarrassed by it. My last trip to Silicon Valley, this is a remarkable story. My last trip to Silicon Valley years ago, I was going to meet a guy named Bradley Horowitz, not Jewish actually, who's senior product guy at Google, doesn't get more senior than him. And it was a social meeting. There's no business. It was just meeting. And so I walk into his office and I see a massive platter of sushi on his desk. And I said, Bradley, what's that? And he said, I know you're strictly kosher and there's no kosher food in Silicon Valley. So I got this brought from outside of Silicon Valley for you. I was like, this is a senior product guy at Google. People respect you when you own it, whatever it may be. In my case, it's Judaism. When you own it and you don't shy away from it, you're not embarrassed by it. People respect you for it. That's been my experience.
I agree. We have to get out of this defensive, apologetic posture and be principled with kindness and with compassion and with sensitivity and with respect for other people, but also principled and not apologizing anymore for who we are and what we stand for and what we believe. Let's talk about Ari. And I don't want to take to a painful episode. We could talk about his legacy in terms of a positive sense. He paid the ultimate price. Yeah, he was that very, very public person. I don't know whether he ever worried, your parents ever worried, his family worried, that being so adamant, and he took the fight right to the front lines. Physically, he did it in the army, put his life on the line, and was a hero in the Israeli army. And he did it in the online world, which maybe not as turned out to be as physically dangerous, but as emotionally and in every other which way was a target of a lot of hate and a lot of animosity. And I don't know whether there's ever been a link between his murder and his online persona, whether he was just nothing is random, of course, in this world, but he was in the wrong place or specifically was a target. But he was trained for that and seemed at least to be prepared. When he came to our community, that the level of commitment, of devotion, that energy, that dynamism that we see in you and in the Fuld family, he had that passion for Israel, for the Jewish people. And he also had that quality. He could disagree vociferously. He could argue Israeli politics. They can give you the biggest bear hug and love you as a Jewish brother, sister, and not let those differences divide or get in between. That also, like, the world is telling us, like, you're not allowed to disagree. On the other hand, the people who disagree don't know how to disagree agreeably and give that hug afterwards. He was able to do both, and what a beautiful legacy. So what do you think is the most powerful legacy that he leaves?
So Ari's legacy, in one word, is truth. Truth, right? It's so simple. It's so simple, and yet in today's world, as we all know, it is so not simple, right? So not trivial today. You know, yes, he had his political opinions, but I think the argument that he argued most often is stop with that false narrative. There was never an Arab-Palestinian state. Tell me when this so-called Arab-Palestinian state that we occupied, tell me when it was established. Please tell me the national anthem. What was the currency? Who was the prime minister? It never existed. So stop making things up and saying we occupied an Arab-Palestinian land because it never existed. And you're telling me that the terrorist attacks are because of settlements? So you're saying before 1967, when there was the beginning of the settlements, there was no Arab terror? Well, that's not true. 1929, the Hebron massacre, right? So you take away the cause, the quote unquote cause of the terror should have stopped, but it didn't. So his whole kind of message to the world is open your eyes. You have a brain, use it, right? There's truth and there's lies. Okay. We can debate from now till we're blue in the face about the conflict. And there's a lot to debate, but let's at least start from a foundation of truth. You cannot change history. Okay. There was no Palestinian Arab state. Palestine was Israel. We didn't occupy anything, and the terror didn't start then, and the poverty and the oppression, quote unquote, of the Arabs in Gaza is not what causes it, because Ari's terrorist murderer was an affluent, living a very good life. He did not lack money. Many other terrorists did not lack money. So we could debate. Let's debate, but let's debate with the foundation of truth. That was Ari's, I think, most important legacy is truth. And again, so trivial to me and you, but today, no truth in our society.
Honesty is a lonely word.
Yep.
I think part of his legacy, I'm not obviously you're his brother, but somebody who knew him very peripherally, but watched his legacy is even the way that he died. And I thought that's where you're going when you read that pasuk about the lion who refuses to lie down without eating or they're taking down their prey, was also Ari, that, you know, he stabbed and superhuman. You know, I read people who reported, doctors who said what he did was impossible, to get up and to pursue and to take a gun and to shoot and to neutralize the terrorists.
He didn't get up. He never fell. The guy got him in a main artery. He was clinically, scientifically dead. He had no blood in his veins. He ran after the guy 50 meters, jumped over a wall and shot him when the guy was inches away from killing his next victim, who, by the way, minutes before sold him a falafel. She had a falafel stand. He bought a falafel, murdered Ari, went back to murder her, and Ari shot him inches away. Since then, she's become a part of the family, obviously. But he got, you know, he is a national hero in the state of Israel, which, you know, I can't help but think my grandmother in Auschwitz, had you told her that her grandson would be a national hero of the state of Israel, what would she even do with that information? She would not even be able to, like, digest it. So you got to take a step back. And I got to say something else. And that is that, yes, we paid the ultimate price. And beyond the, you know, personal family tragedy, every person that's killed, you know, in the state of Israel in wars or in terrorist attacks is an entire world and a horrible, horrible tragedy. And that will never be belittled. However, something my father likes to say, which is, it is just unbelievable. There has never been, listen carefully, there has never been a 74-year period since the destruction of the Second Temple in which so few Jews have been killed. Listen, let me repeat that. Every person that dies, it's horrible. It's a whole world. It's horrible. But you have to look at the big picture here. The big picture is that there was always something. There was the Spanish Inquisition. There were the pogroms. There was the Holocaust. There was always something. There has never been a 74-year period in the history of the Jewish people since Churban HaBayis that so few Jews have been killed. And that is perspective.